Hey, good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of Pro Wrestling Talk brought to you by Blitzball Champ Gaming. I'm your host, Blitzball Champ, coming at you here on the U to the 2. So, for this video, I wanted to recap and give my thoughts on yesterday's AEW Full Gear pay per view. This is their last pay per view of the year for AEW, and this took place at the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we had quite a card for this event, and I think overall it was a solid pay per view. But let's go over some things as we dive into this pay per view. So there was a buy-in first, and the buy-in was actually a women's tag team match. It was Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa taking on Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter. Now, for this particular match, this is pretty much a preview of the upcoming matchups for the TBS Championship Tournament. Of course, Shida is getting ready to go up against Nyla Rose, and Jamie Hayter is getting ready to go up against Thunder Rosa. Now, this was a pretty decent match. It definitely, you got four great wrestlers in there. I mean, when you look at it, Nyla Rose, Hikaru Shida are former AEW Women's World Champions. And, of course, Thunder Rosa is a former NWA Women's World Champion. So, had quite a lot of star power in this match. But overall, it was a pretty dang on good match for the buy-in. I know Serena Deeb was watching in the front row, so had a moment there with Shida. But it was a good match, but ultimately Shida got the pin on Nyla Rose and got the victory for her and Thunder Rosa. But I do feel because they got the victory on the buy-in, something tells me that probably Nyla Rose is going to get her revenge when they have their tournament match, which I believe will be this coming Wednesday or Friday. I think it's this Wednesday, but something tells me that Nyla Rose will probably beat Shida. Because lately, Shida's kind of had Nyla Rose's number. So maybe this is where Nyla Rose finally puts away Shida for the first time, and she advances in the TBS Championship Tournament. But we shall see. But anything can happen. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Now, let's actually go into the actual card for Full Gear. So the first match of the main card was Darby Allin versus MJF. And I must say, this definitely was one of the best matches on the card. Easily in my top 3 on the card. Darby Allin, MJF. I mean, these two, we saw, a lot of chain wrestling. We saw technical wrestling. I mean, Darby Allin hit a really nasty suicide dive on MJF while he was jaw-jacking to another fan. And, I mean, there were so many near falls. There were some coffin drop spots, including the one that Darby missed and landed on the apron. I mean, it was nasty. And I mean, it was just back and forth between these two. And I mean, for the first match of the main card, this was an excellent way to start off Full Gear. But sure enough, MJF was able to get the victory. Had the diamond ring on, knocked out Darby Allin, and was able to capitalize with the pin. Now, I know Wardlow and Shawn Spears were getting ready to interfere, but Sting was there to help even the odds. But with the distraction, and being that MJF had his diamond ring in his trunks or tights, he was able to put that into use into this match. And it was at least a good almost 30-minute match. between these two. So I was just like, wow, they really started off with a bang. But MJF did get the victory over Darby Allin, which was expected. I mean, you got to continue to build up MJF as a high level top heel in AEW because, like I said, someday he is going to be champion. It's only a matter of time, but it's coming. It's coming. We just don't know when yet. Next up, we had the AEW tag team titles on the line as the Lucha Bros defended against FTR. Now, I was digging the special entrance for Lucha Bros. That was really cool, with the camo and everything like that. But overall, this was a good match. The ending didn't really make much sense. FTR had those green masks that they wore as those masked luchadors when they won the AAA titles off of Lucha Bros. And I guess the whole idea was they had those on and were trying to do like a switcheroo because wouldn't be able to see who it was, and they wanted to kind of play off like the man that was in the ring wasn't the legal man. But honestly, the masks really didn't do anything. You know what I mean? They didn't really do anything. Lucha Bros took advantage, hit the double team finisher, and was able to retain their tag titles. But it was a good match. I mean, there was even a segment where Penta El Cerro Mero's mask was tied to the bottom rope, which I thought was pretty innovative. But honestly, the ending was kind of unnecessary with the way that ending was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I figured Lucha Bros were going to retain, but the way they did it, it just didn't make sense. With FTR implementing those green masks, that didn't really make any sense. Like, I don't know ultimately what they were trying to do, but that ending was just weak. But nonetheless, good match, weak ending. All right, next up we had the AEW World Championship Eliminator Tournament Final, which was Miro versus the American Dragon Bryan Danielson. And I have to say, this was definitely a David versus Goliath type match. I mean, Miro, Bryan Danielson definitely had great chemistry in the ring. I mean, there were strikes here and just back and forth between these two. Two heavy, hard hitters. I mean, despite Bryan Danielson's size compared to Miro, he's still a heavy hitter. Literally. The finish. Well, now I did like a lot of times where, of course, Miro was taking the chops and the kicks, and then he kind of had a moment where they weren't phasing him, and he was able to overpower Bryan Danielson, and even had him hooked into the game over twice. But of course, on the second time when he wrenched and leaned back, Bryan Danielson was able to reverse it into a pin attempt. But ultimately, he hit a avalanche DDT into a guillotine and was able to. And that's the thing, Miro didn't tap out. He pretty much passed out. So in a way, it kind of keeps Miro strong. But I gotta give him credit. He was able to escape out of the label lock, the triangle choke. But after eating that avalanche DDT and then slapping on the guillotine, he passed out. But with that, Bryan Danielson is your number one contender to the AEW World Championship. So he will get that future title shot. I know a lot of people are kind of split between picking Miro and Bryan Danielson to win. Honestly, I think this makes sense. Bryan Danielson is on a roll, and I feel like it's going to take a high-profile name in order to be the one to give him his first loss. I mean, after all, his first match was against, Kenny Omega, and that ended in a draw. I'm sure we are at some point going to see that rematch again with an actual winner. Who that winner will be remains to be seen. But Bryan Danielson is your number one contender. And I'm cool with it. I'm definitely cool with it. Okay, next up we had the Falls Count Anywhere match. Christian Cage teaming up with Jurassic Express going up against Super Click, which is Adam Cole and the Young Bucks. Adam Cole and the Young Bucks wearing the hot pink. And Christian had on pretty much, his street fight type gear. And then of course you had Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. And I must say, this match, like I said, was Falls Count Anywhere. And it was definitely what I expected. Another one of my favorite matches on here. And we saw a lot of stuff being used. We saw tables, we saw dozens of super kicks, we even saw thumbtack knee pads being used. I thought that was pretty interesting. We saw ladders, and Luchasaurus, wow, that big man can fly. He had a shooting star press off the ramp. That was crazy. And this match told a really great story between these two teams, and there's been a lot of buildup, a good amount of buildup. And sure enough, when the time came, although I thought it was pretty cool that Matt Jackson did a flying senton off the ramp. That was pretty cool. But it took a concerto to I believe that was Nick Jackson, and Christian was getting ready to do it, but Jungle Boy was like, nah, let me do this. Takes the chair, hits him with the concerto, and that pretty much sealed it. Get the 1, 2, 3. Christian and Jurassic Express get the victory. I was kind of surprised because I felt like they had the momentum already going into this match, so that's why I was thinking this, Super Click was gonna win, but nah, Christian and Jurassic Express were able to capitalize, and they win the Falls Count Anywhere match. It was a great match. It was definitely a great match. I just wasn't digging the hot pink that the Super Click were wearing. That just looked really weird. But next up you had Cody Rhodes and Pac versus Andrade El Idolo and Malachi Black. Ultimately, this was not as great as I would have hoped it to be. I feel like this match could have been a lot better. But you see a little bit of dissension between Cody and Pac, which, I mean, they normally don't work together anyway. But, I mean, it was pretty back and forth. Andrade and Malachi, they got their licks in. Cody and Pac, I felt like Pac pretty much did the biggest amount of the work. But sure enough, was able to hit the Black Arrow and get the victory for Cody Rhodes and Pac. I'm not gonna say it was a terrible match, but I felt like it was definitely one of the weak ones out of the whole card. Definitely thought it was one of the weak ones, but I wouldn't say it was a terrible match overall. Next up you have the AEW Women's World Championship, which was Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, defending against Ty Conte. They both had special entrances. Ty Conte, uh, new gear, Brazilian flag face paint, and just that was really cool. And of course, Britt Baker had somebody play on electric guitar her theme. I don't know who that was, but that was pretty neat. But these ladies, I have to say, it kind of started off a little slow, but then it picked up throughout the rest of the match. But I will say this. This match was definitely Ty Conti's best match so far in AEW. Like, she had a great match with Sheeta, Nyla Rose, but I really feel like this was her best match with Britt Baker. And I mean, she pulled out all the stops. I mean, she hit the Ty KO, DD Ty. She hit a moonsault off the top turnbuckle to the outside. A beautiful moonsault. But I mean, she just. And even with the interference, I mean, she hung in there. She hung in there even with the interference. Was able to, escape out of the attempts at the lockjaw from Britt Baker. Even kicked out of after getting hit by a curb stomp. But ultimately, it took reversing the reversal of the lockjaw, and that was how Britt Baker was able to seal the deal and get the victory and retain. But this was a great match between these ladies. Like I said, Ty Conti's best match on AEW, like to this day. And, this was only her second title shot for the AEW Women's World Championship. She had one against Sheeta, didn't beat Sheeta, and then she had this one against Britt Baker and wasn't able to get the victory. Mark my words. I do believe Ty Conti will eventually, at some point, become AEW Women's Champion. Honestly, I think third time will be the charm. But I still think that Thunder Rosa is going to be the one to dethrone Britt Baker. It's just a matter of time. I always figured she was going to make it through the end of the year as champion, but I'm thinking probably either Revolution next year or Double or Nothing will probably be when Britt Baker gets dethroned by Thunder Rosa. So we'll see, but that's what I'm thinking. Next match, you had CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston. And these two have been at each other's throats. I mean, CM Punk calls him a bum. My thing with this match, it was all right, but it should have been longer. I felt like this match should have been longer. And, I really wanted to see Eddie Kingston win. And it was close. It was definitely close. I mean, she even busted open CM Punk. And just a lot of the crowd was behind him. And were actually booing CM Punk. Yeah, a lot of them were actually booing CM Punk. But, it was just one of those that Eddie Kingston came so close, but at the wrong time, he ate a GTS. CM Punk was able to cover him for the 3 count. I just felt like the match wasn't long enough. This match definitely could have been a lot longer to really, really tell that story in the ring. So, kind of a weaker match. I like the idea. I was hoping this could have been potentially match of the night. Sadly, I can't say that it was because it wasn't long enough. But CM Punk still undefeated in AEW. Went to offer Eddie Kingston the handshake, but he declined and just left out the ring. So that was a bummer, but that doesn't really surprise me. I'm sure he was frustrated with that loss. I mean, being fueled by CM Punk's words and many other things in their storyline, I would have thought this would have been the time that Eddie Kingston got his revenge, but not yet, apparently. But I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that this won't be the last meeting between these two. For sure. For sure. Next up, we had the Minneapolis Street Fight. The Inner Circle versus the Men of the Year and America's Top Team. This match, I will definitely say, was the weakest. This match was the weakest of the card. Had an okay finish, but here's the problem with this match. This match legit started off as just a regular match. Started off as a regular match. With folks tagging in, despite this being a Minneapolis street fight. I'm like, this is a Minneapolis street fight and folks are tagging in and such. It's like the first half of the match, everybody forgot, oh, wait, this is supposed to be a street fight. Why do we have to tag in? You know what I mean? Like, that was my whole issue with this match. The street fight part didn't kick in until like middle of the match, and then that's when we started seeing the trash cans, the toasters. We started seeing we even saw a Prince symbol, so shout out to Prince. We even saw a Prince symbol. We saw a toaster being used. We saw hockey sticks being used. It was crazy. But I mean, you know, the Prince symbol makes sense. I mean, they're in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You know, Prince is from Minnesota. They also... Oh, I also forgot to mention that they also had Baron von Rutsky. I think I said that right. The innovator, the man behind the Iron Claw, was in there as well. On the front row, and there was actually a segment where you got a chance to use that Iron Claw during the match, and I tell you, it was so funny. It was really funny. But I mean, seeing a toaster, seeing like the same trash can pretty much used until it's like almost disintegrated. And then of course Dan Lambert, of course, was being chased away, and you know he did get a few licks in on Jericho, but I mean, come on now. Junior Dos Santos, he actually looked good in the ring. I mean, he hit a moonsault, and I have to say he actually looked good. He actually looked good. Andre Arlovsky, oh man, you could definitely tell he showed his age in this match. He does not look the same. He definitely does not look the same. But I gotta give credit to JDS. He looked good. He looked good in the ring. I think he did good. And of course, Dan Lambert, ended up taking the pin. Chris Jericho was able to get him with a frog splash. Tribute to Eddie Guerrero. Of course, there was a lot of that took place in that event. Shout out to Eddie Guerrero. That was 16 years since Eddie Guerrero passed. But man, I still can't believe it's been that long. It's crazy. Cannot believe it's been that long. Rest in peace, Eddie Guerrero, a true pioneer, the cruiserweight division, or just in general. Used to watch him all the time back in WCW. I mean, he was a great wrestler. Even in WWE, had so many great storylines with Rey Mysterio and with Tajiri, Brock Lesnar, JBL, Big Show, you name it. China, may she rest in peace. But yeah, so a lot of different things during that event to pay tribute to Eddie Guerrero. Now, Inner Circle did get the victory, as I expected. But yeah, overall this match was the weakest, being that you didn't really see the Minneapolis street fight part until about middle of the match. And then that's when they started using the weapons and doing the actual street fight rules, no tagging in and just going at it. So yeah, that was my only issue with that. Also, one of the big announcements that was made at Full Gear, AEW has signed yet another hot name, big name pro wrestler in the form of Jay Lethal. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Jay Lethal is all elite. I mean, we're talking about former X Division champion back in Impact Wrestling. We're talking about ROH World Champion, ROH Television Champion, Tag Team Champion. I mean, Jay Lethal, he's a beast in the ring. An excellent wrestler, a very well-known name. I mean, one of the best. Definitely one of the best. And now he's all elite. And for his first match in AEW, he's going to get a shot at the TNT Championship held by Sammy Guevara. This Wednesday, he's going to get a title shot. Now, of course, I don't see him beating Sammy Guevara, but we're gonna get a chance to see Jay Lethal in action very soon in an AEW ring. That's a big signing for AEW. So, wow, Jay Lethal. I mean, can you imagine what Jay Lethal brings to the table? Oh man, I look forward to it. I've met Jay Lethal. First ROH show I ever went to, Winter Warriors Tour. I met Jay Lethal. He was part of the meet and greet. Great man. Great man. So I definitely look forward to see Jay Lethal tear it up in AEW. And last but not least, we have the main event of AEW Full Gear 2021. And that is the AEW World Championship. Kenny Omega defending against Hangman Adam Page. Now, this was definitely a great match. Of course, Don Callis was in Kenny Omega's corner. And, I mean, they were just hitting each other with everything. I mean, the whole crowd was pretty much behind Hangman Page, as expected. But, I mean, there were a lot of great moments in this match. I mean, there were some times where Kenny Omega was kind of playing with his food, but, I mean, he still does what he usually does in the ring. A lot of V-triggers. And just really back and forth between these two. Of course, there were a couple of moments where Don Callis got in cheap shots on Hangman Page, outside of the ring, so that doesn't surprise me. But the really interesting moment was you had the Young Bucks come out. The Young Bucks came out. Well, first of all, you had a segment where the referee got knocked down as Adam Page was going to give Kenny Omega a buckshot. Referee got taken out. And then, of course, Kenny Omega was going to try to use the belt and hit Hangman Page. That didn't work. He got hit with the dead eye. Then Aubrey Edwards raced down to the ring, tried to make the count, but Kenny Omega still kicked out. And then the ending segment. Not only did did Hangman Page reverse the one-winged angel, but then Hangman turned around and hit Kenny Omega with the one-winged angel. Now, of course, Kenny Omega did kick out. And then you have the Young Bucks come out, and Hangman was getting ready to hit a buckshot lariat. Nick Jackson was on one side, and it looked like he was about to do something. Or actually, they were both kind of on the same side. Looked like he was about to do something to Hangman, but he didn't. And gave him a nod. Hit one buckshot. And then from the other side of the ring, he went to go do another one. And Matt Jackson, looked at him. And Matt Jackson was like, gave him the nod. And then Hangman hits one more buckshot lariat and covers Kenny Omega for the 1-2-3. And we have a new AEW World Champion, Hangman Adam Page. The crazy thing about this is the Young Bucks did not interfere. It looked like they were going to, but they did not interfere. So, is it safe to say Young Bucks face turn? I don't know. That was a very interesting segment of how that ended, how that went down. The Young Bucks looking like they were going to interfere, and they didn't. They didn't. And then you had the celebration, the Dark Order coming down. They offer Hangman a beer. He took that beer and threw it away and just gave them all a big hug. But yeah, Hangman did it. And I'm just so happy how AEW did with this story. This was a long, big storyline, and I think they gave it plenty of time. They let it build up over, the year or so. They really let this storyline build up to this point. And look at the payoff. The payoff is excellent because this Wednesday, AEW is going to be in Norfolk, Virginia. And Hangman Adam Page is from Virginia. So this is a big homecoming for Hangman. Huge. And then there's also you have to also think Bryan Danielson has a title shot owed to him because he's #1 contender. I don't know when that title match will happen, but I think it's going to take some time. I think it's going to be a bit. Give Hangman Adam Page a chance to really just absorb this victory. And we'll have to see where it goes. But Bryan Danielson has a title shot coming to him. So, something to keep in mind. But I have to say, this was a great card. Overall, great show. A lot of people were kind of comparing this show to All Out that happened earlier this year. And it's tough. It's close. It's definitely close. I like them both. But, overall, some great matches. A few had some weak finishes. The Lucha Bros FTR finish, weak. You had the Minneapolis street fight that, was kind of, you didn't see the street fight part until midway. Eddie Kingston, CM Punk, I don't think was long enough. I really don't think that was long enough. Miro, Bryan Danielson, kind of a weak / interesting finish, but overall, these were good matches. Overall, good matches, but that was a pretty good way to end the year for AEW pay-per-views. And then, hey, we got Jay Lethal on the way. We're going to be seeing him as soon as Wednesday. So that's a big signing, and we'll have to see what else happens going forward. But anyway, definitely enjoyed AEW Full Gear 2021. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Did y'all enjoy the card? Did y'all like the matches? Were your predictions correct? Let me know what y'all think. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well. And thank y'all so much for watching. This is Blitzball Champ signing off for another Pro Wrestling Talk video brought to you by Blitzball Champ Gaming. Have a blessed week, and I will see y'all soon. Peace.